Is that all I have to do? Never sure anymore. I will assume so. Sure, I'm glad to see you guys here. I've been playing with this lavender and looking at the butt end of it. Wish I had 3 hands on the whole magnifier. I'm looking for the damaged part on the stem. And in his really good days, Steve could probably have gotten a picture of this, but I don't know. I don't think the camera's not. I've been playing around with my camera versus the phone today, and I'm pretty sure that when it comes down to it, the camera takes better pictures. But then I don't have a new phone. Sonia and others, Sonia is the one I'm thinking of, primarily has one of the newer phones. And man, some of the pictures those things take, just amazing. Whoa, hello everybody. Suddenly a bunch of people have appeared. Hey Martha. Hey Chris. Chris, I haven't sent out anything about Garden Club, but I think we ought to start next week.
I turned my microphone on to say hello. Now I'm going to turn it off again.
Well, stay on and say hello. What's it doing down there now? Was it supremely windy this week for you?
Yes, it has been.
Okay, so this wind is definitely going a long way. It was windy for Treese down in Florida, and I thought, wow, we got a whole east part of the continent wind. Who can tell what is regional with weather and what goes all over the place? Nice.
Well, right now, the wind here is a good thing because we had a terribly cold session and all the leaves fell off of my live oak trees.
Wow.
It's about 6 inches of leaves all over everybody's yards.
Wow.
And the last 2 windy days are blowing them off to someplace. I don't know where they're going, but they're leaving here.
You're not just getting the neighbors, you're not just trading leaves with neighbors, they're just going away?
Well, we're right in the middle between a river and 3 creeks and 2 ponds.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So they're leaving my view.
Here we've had lots of people cleaning up fall leaves because they didn't come down until so late in the fall. But the live oaks, I know the live oaks lose their leaves over time, but not all at once. So are they?
Yeah, you don't see it happening to them.
Yeah, are they bare then now?
No, they've got new little green leaves coming out, but there should be the older green leaves there looking like they're going to make it through another year. They don't.
Right.
The new ones force the old ones out, but you don't notice it.
So they're not entirely bare because the new stuff is already coming out.
Right.
I have looked up the evergreen conifers for how long they keep their needles and leaves, because some of the evergreens really just keep their leaves for 1 year and drop them as the new ones come on anyway. But I've never looked up live oaks because I've never had any live oaks that I could call my own, that I could take care of. I'll have to look that up and see. Hello, gang. Oh, I did it again. I told myself last time I wasn't going to call people gang. I've been playing with a piece of lavender here. I don't know if you noticed I was doing that. I cut the lavender back, and I've been trying to show people what I mean by the stem gets infected. I don't think that this will show. It won't focus that close, but inside the stem there's a dark area where there was an infection. And it's why I cut the lavender back so hard, is to make sure that it starts with as much clean tissue as possible every year. And I took a picture of that today, or tried to take a picture of that, of cutting it back. Welcome to the preamble here. Are there any questions that anybody's bringing with them? Oh, that's right. I meant to go get a picture. The snowdrops were so brilliant yesterday. They were just, they were living up to their name of looking like a little bank of snow in some areas. Jill is not here, but Jill got her courage up and cut her panicle hydrangea after we talked last week and did this to it, which is great. She cut back to strong branches, strong wood. So each of these branches now, so she cut it back to here. Each of those will grow that far and get flowers at least as sturdy as they had last year. I might have cut a few more. I'll send this back to Jill and say I might have cut some of the things like this one that comes off and does its own thing, and this one that curves around the other branch, because it doesn't need to have quite so much clutter in the middle. If you look at how it bloomed, you might be able to tell that the branches in the middle are thinner than some of the ones on the side that don't have so much competition. Oh. So anyway, kudos to Jill, and have fun cleaning up. Man, I walked out. I've been looking out into the back of my backyard, but I've been working in the front yard. So mostly I've just been looking back there. Today I walked back there. I am walking on a mattress of branches. There's so much that this wind has brought down from the trees. And the way the wind comes through here, we need our back line of trees. It's quite the windbreak, but it still pushes everything in underneath. So I've got everybody's branches. Not so many leaves though. They must have gone on by. Anyone bringing us any questions to this early session? No. Hey, Carol. Carol, we changed to Carol Petard. We changed our time to meet with another Carol Leeper, up in Clare. They still had snow on the ground in the beds, and we decided it wasn't a great time to meet on Thursday when we'd set up, and that's still what it says on our calendar, but we moved it to the 9th of April. And it occurs to me that you might be a good one to come and take a look with her, as we figure out what's practical to do for the volunteer group that takes care of the beds at that highway rest stop. And in many, it sounds like some of the plants, most of them were natives, but it sounds like the Baptisia took over. Maybe they let it seed itself around or whatever. So there's probably going to be a lot of plants to give away or do something with. Maybe you'll know someplace that we can ship them down to, send them down the road from Clare over to the Lansing area. I am just back from hi Priscilla. I am just back from a dance recital. No, not a recital, a competition that my granddaughter was in. She's been dancing, as Steve has pointed out, she's been dancing since she could stand up. If there was music on, she was wiggling around to it, and it's really something to see them now in 9 years worth of dance lessons later. Wow, amazing what they do. Hi there, Bunny. Stephen's just coming back from taking the grandkids home because they went with us to see their sister at the dance competition. But it was a gorgeous day this morning. Oh my gosh, I got out of the car at 8 o'clock. I'd taken the kids to school, and it didn't smell like spring yet, but it sounded like spring. There was a cardinal on either side of the property carrying on about whose property this belonged to. There were mourning doves cooing and sandhill cranes flying over, and all around me, every house finch in the property, and there's a lot of them out there, every house finch around was chattering away to each other. It was really nice. And then it rained. Didn't rain much, but it rained enough to make me go in, and I had to stay in until I had things to do here at the desk. Tomorrow I'll get to go out some more. We're not getting many people interested in going out with us to an AR Garden by Janet's and Steve's. Tomorrow I'm in Grosse Pointe Park, and technically the sign up for that is closed because we were looking to get to know ahead of time how many people might be there and what telephone numbers we'd have to call if we had a weather change. But if anybody's interested in going to Grosse Pointe Park tomorrow or Waterford on Sunday, we can certainly have you in. We're doing panicle hydrangeas and oak leaf hydrangeas in Waterford on Sunday. We're doing mophead and lace cap, the blue and the pink hydrangeas, next Saturday. And tomorrow we're doing a general, you have too many plants, we have to keep these small, how do we prune these situation. Lots of everything. There's a magnolia, dogwood, several different types of conifers and Japanese maples. It's an interesting yard. It is, Carol, it is the Master Gardener group that takes care of that rest area near Clare. And yes, they have. I'm reading from the chat that Carol is saying there used to be a Master Gardener group that took care of that rest area near Claire, off of is that M10, US 10, off of the road that goes across the mitten at about that level. Last time I stopped there, Carol writes, it didn't look like the group was as active as they used to be, and it gets harder and harder to get volunteers. Yeah, it does. That's what Carol Nieper, who is in charge of that group, told me. She said the group's gotten smaller and older. They do have a couple of people that they can call in the must be the state government group that takes care of the rest area that they can ask to do things, but she's not sure where to even start on this. And that's what often happens with a perennial bed. That's in this case it's perennial beds plural that are older. The plants that have taken control are intimidating, to say the least. It's like, what do I do with these, and where do I start? So we're working out a program to where we get started. Hey, Bernie and Anne. Hello, everybody. Well, I'm looking for questions because I had not very many questions that I had to deal with in email or text this week. And I was outside working every chance I could get. It was cold at the beginning of the week, but it was nice. Yeah, I don't remember what days, but yesterday it was nice in the afternoon. I was able to get out for a little bit.
Good evening and welcome to Free4All Friday. All gardeners are welcome. Let's celebrate growing and problem solving.
This is number 70. Do you believe we've done this 70 times on Fridays now? No wonder these episodes add up, and no wonder we've got 185, 86 webinars on file.
Yep. We're coming to you from gardenatozz.org. I'm Stephen Nicola.
I'm Janet Makanovich. That's us. We like to be outside as much as we can. Steve does a lot of the photographs that we use for the website. I do most of the words, but we do interchange depending on what's going on. You'll find me with a camera in my pocket frequently when I'm out. We do have the website gardenatozz.org, and thank you, Elizabeth, for calling my attention to that again, that even though I tell people they forget, if you go to gardenatozz.com, which still exists in some ghostly way somewhere, it's not been updated and you won't be able to find our Zoom meetings. Remember that we're .org, gardenatozz.org. And if you go there, you'll get to the site that Steve and I started that we don't require. There's no cookies, there's no sign up to use the site. We made it so that we could take all the things we've been writing for 40 years and put them in one place so that we could build on what we've already written and build from there. And that we could make it as well, as we were talking just a couple days ago, we can put in as many pictures as we want. You wouldn't believe how hard it is to get color pictures into a book if you're working with a national publisher, which is what we did and we don't do anymore. We'd much rather show people exactly what they're going to see, because especially for gardeners, we need to get a feel for what we're getting into. Somebody says, "Oh, it'll be just like a daisy." Well, if it's just like a daisy, show me a daisy and it so that I can see how the difference is. Anyway, so please feel free to use the site. You can look at any of the thousands of articles that we have up there, or you can click the Fridays button on the home page, and that'll take you to the Fridays page where there's always a link. So any 7 o'clock Friday that you want to join us, we don't meet on Friday evenings if we have a webinar the next Saturday morning. So there is it will tell you what date it is. It won't say May 10th. This is an old picture that I took here, but you can get to us that way. You can also, on that same page, access the YouTube videos of any of the prior Fridays by going to the season or the number or doing a search for what you're looking for, because we do send out a video along with an index of the topics that were there and what time that in the video those showed up. And we kept this guy because I can't, oh no, I've forgotten who sent them. Mary Ellen. Don't you just want to comb his hair or push it out of his eye or wipe the snot off of his nose? I mean, no wonder everybody likes these Highland Coos so much. I just can't get this picture out of the questions slot.
Well, Bernie has a hand up.
Oh, okay, Bernie. You can talk to the coo.
Bernadette, right?
Yeah.
Bernie.
Yeah, Bernie needs to turn her microphone on and then she'll be able to do that. She's not at the top of my list, so
Okay.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go.
There it is.
I don't know why I lost some controls here. You know, I was had my hand up for so long, I forgot what the question was.
Well, good. You've demonstrated for
No.
the new user how we do this, and
Yeah, I guess is there a way to send you a picture through the chat or anything, or do I have to email it to you?
you can you can text the picture
Because I
if you
mean, in the
describe
chat there's no attachments, are there?
attachments here on Zoom. There's not, but on but you could text it, text the picture to me, and I'll be able to see it here. I won't be able to show it on the screen right away because if I leave this and go over to my email to grab a picture, I don't have two screens like Sonia does that I can not have you guys seeing all of
Yeah, I was just
the clumsy work. So what is the picture of?
it's on my nephew's backyard. I don't know if you do any on-site classes or anything, but
Was it a design question? Oh, that would be great. Send me that and we can talk about that next time for sure.
well, it's like the problem is he has no design. The gutter is badly placed, and he gets a pool. And I was gonna think maybe like a rain garden or something, because on top
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
mud hole, he's got two big dogs with him and his brother who
Yeah,
likes
well,
to run through the yard.
right. Well, that is a design question. I mean, that's what design is all about. People tend to jump right into design is whether you put bee balm with daisies and whether you put phlox with hydrangeas. It's figuring out what to do with the space is what design
Yeah.
is. We'll have send me some pictures or some sketches. Those are the things I would like to put up besides some of the stuff that we do with
Yeah, I
dividing.
mean, other than the fire pit in the middle there that they don't use
Okay.
because his dog is too anxious and
Okay.
he
Now
can't have people
this
over.
Okay, this conversation will be better done if you can send me some kind of a picture or drawing so we've got something to look at and point
Yeah,
to.
he sent me a couple, and I finally found them on the stupid phone here because I just go back to when he took them. Like I know
So
when.
you send them to me and I'll get them into here for the next one.
Okay,
Okay,
thanks.
sure. So I have been out today and I thought I would just mention because people ask about the blue branch in our yard. This is our blue branch. When it's laying on the ground like this, you can kind of see that it was a juniper. It was a ground cover juniper, and I was yanking it out of this yard when I thought, hey, it's got kind of a nice shape. So I sliced it off. I sawed it off at ground level and took off some of the smaller branches and all the needles, dried it out, painted it, and hung it up. I've got it inside now. It's in the garage because right here, you might be able to see this brown, the way that I hung it, supported it out in the garden, is I drilled through the trunk and put a piece of re-rod through the trunk with a bolt at the top of it so that it couldn't come through. And then I dropped that re-rod into the pipe that it sits in. Well, a heavy branch during one of the ice storms, a heavy branch full of ice fell on it when it was also full of ice, and it bent the re-rod so the branch doesn't sit quite right. So I've got it out, and I'm going to take that re-rod out somehow and figure out how to redo it. But meanwhile, it'll be easier to repaint it. I've been repainting it in the air all these years, and one of the things that we learned, but I did not execute here, from remember Bob, Steve, how he would he said he would
Yeah.
power wash all the bark off of the things before.
Yes.
I should have power washed it first, and I'm thinking about even doing that now, borrowing Corey's power washer and getting the rest of the bark off because I'm peeling it off in strips here, so that it takes paint better. But I'm also anxious to get it back out there before the garden comes up because I have to stand in the garden and squash things to put it back in place. So it's like, how do you decide what to do when? This time of year, there's just too much going on. So I think I may just, for this year, just paint it again and get it back up there. But the next time I pull it down, I'll wash the bark off. It is a juniper, and juniper, like arborvitae and yew, would last forever. The fact that this is up in the air makes it last even longer because fungus doesn't grow as well in the air as it does if it's touching moist soil. But still, this is going to last a long time, and I like the looks of it. And the birds are probably right now saying, what the heck has happened to the place where we used to sit and stage before we went to the feeder? I haven't gone out there and looked, but they are probably desperate. So we'll see if I can get that done this weekend. I kept the desert flowers pictures in here, desert in bloom, because I have not yet identified what things are, and I need a spur. So if you've seen these before, that's because our friend Lori, who went and took the desert in bloom pictures outside of her neighborhood in Arizona, sent these to me, and we'll take a look at them again. That's gorgeous. This is a great time of year to improve the bulb situation in your yard, in any yard that you're looking at. These are, last maybe last week. I don't remember when I did it. Last week I was telling you how tiny the species tulips were that were coming up that are supposed to be deer resistant, and I'd planted by our driveway to see if they'd make it through. And I showed you a picture of these. I showed you this picture. They might not have been open then. No, they weren't open then. Well, I thought they were Tarda tulips, Tulipa desistemum, but then Diane reminded me, she said, I gave you some yellow crocus. I said, oh, that's right. And if I'd looked, they weren't up so far when I took the picture before, but there's tulip, look at the difference between tulip foliage and crocus foliage. Why didn't I notice that before? Although some of them do have narrower leaves. But what happened is something that's happened before. Where's the picture? There's the whole thing. I had 3 types of species tulips, supposedly deer resistant, and it was December, I think the first week of December. I said, oh, I still have these things. So I dug 3 holes, 1, 2, there's the second hole coming up there, and 3 coming up here, in a space that I thought was bare. Have I done this before, Steve?
Yes.
Yeah, so I planted the place twice, but fortunately I planted all around where I put the crocuses. So I didn't, I probably would have noticed if I dug them up. But at any rate, I have the tulips still coming, but I have these cute little crocuses coming up. We'll see how they look. That's perennial geranium ground cover seeding in there. And all over on the ground, these are fir needles. Decent mulch, pine needle mulch here.
Sure do like the bulbs in the spring.
Oh, they're just, they glow. It doesn't matter that they don't take up much space, although I'm going to find a way to afford about 100 more of each of these, Steve. This is
Talk to Al.
yeah, this is a 3-year-old clump of Catherine's gold iris. Well, it's an iris reticulatum hybrid. Netted iris is what it's called. They're going to bloom at this height, which is 5 inches tall, 6 inches tall. The leaves will follow and be about 12 inches tall and then go away. This is one of the blue forms. It might be Harmony. There are a lot of blue forms and a lot of purple forms. And these, I thought I was planting yellow with blue because my son is and my daughter-in-law too, are U of M graduates. But, well, turns out, and doesn't it happen this way in design? The Catherine's gold blooms a little earlier than the iris, the Harmony does. But anyway.
12 years.
Yeah, and I could divide them. I did divide these once. The first year that they were in, I said, okay, I'm going to divide you right away and make more of you. You can see one coming up over here. But I don't want to divide them again yet. I want to get more. What did happen?
Speaking of dividing, Ruth asked, my tulips and daffodils are coming up in tight clumps. Can I divide them and when?
Just right now, Ruth. So here is a clump of the iris right about now, like a week from now. See, there's the flower, and this one is it's one of the purple ones of the netted iris. I've just dug it up. It was this far out of the ground. You can see how much is coming, and I'm dividing it because now's the time, and dividing it into individual corms so that I can move them around. Dig them up now and divide them. When you put them back in the ground, make sure if they have not bloomed yet, if you're doing something like a daffodil or a tulip, when you put them back in the ground, put them in deeper, an inch or 2 deeper, so they got a little more support for that heavy bud that was coming up. And most times when they get into a tight clump and they start multiplying, I was looking for a picture and didn't find one yet. When they start multiplying into a tight clump, they tend to push each other up closer to the surface anyway, so set them down deeper. But yeah, you can make lots of bulbs out of them. And if you know where they are, you can get them before they come up. You can look and say, okay, I know there's some tulips right there, and go for them. That's a squill, a lily, and a tulip coming up. But yeah, grab them right now and put them in the ground. It always bothers me that later in the year, I can't find them, or there's too many nice things going on all around them that I would be disturbing too much. Do it now because everybody can settle back in, has plenty of time to do that. These are crocuses, and crocuses, I try to put crocuses about 4 inches deep. When they start getting tight, they've pushed themselves up. Sometimes they bubble right out of the ground. There's so many things coming up. But they're a corm rather than a bulb. So see, the new corm that's forming at the base of the stem is forming on top of the old corm, plus some side ones. See the little one forming right there. And they just push each other around. But I do a lot of dividing bulbs now. Divide them and share them. Some bulbs even snowdrops. And there's another one, winter aconite. move better, and they call it in the green, with leaves up, than as dormant bulbs. Sometimes when you put snowdrops or winter aconite, that's galanthus, or what's winter aconite's name? Anyway, if you put either one of those in the ground as bulbs in the fall, dry bulbs, sometimes they take a couple of years before they come up. They just don't come up as well. So here's this is one of the fall crocuses that we dug up as the foliage was going down. And Diane sent this today. This is a crocus that she's just dug up because it was, she said, not even blooming well anymore because the rabbits keep eating it. So she's moving it to where the rabbits can't get it. And she noticed something that I hadn't noticed before. I can see one right there. That there's the new corm forming. The corm is a thickened base of the stem. And I said, well, I've not seen anything like that before, where they're forming elongated rather than that flattened shape. Oh, that flattened shape that you see in this corm. I said, I wonder why it's doing that. It might be because this was coming up crooked. It was coming up in a crowded bunch. It might be that the new corm is forming rather than right on top and being impeded by the old corm is loose to come through. But I hadn't seen it before. Has anybody got any of these really prolific lilac-colored crocuses? And Diane, I'd love to know what you took the picture on top of, because I like this background a lot. I'm going to have to get something like that to use for us here. Because I remember having some like this at someone's garden, and then when I went looking, I said, does this happen? Look at this right here. See there? It's one of the English. Here we go. So it's not all that unusual. This is a crocus of some kind, and the corm is forming off to one side and longer. But boy, you know, if you don't show people the stuff that you see in other places, then how are we ever going to find and explore all the different possibilities and anticipate all the things that we're going to get into? An old purple file folder. Great. I'm good.
Therese says, where in the world can rabbits not get to our plants?
If you put a fence,
Antarctica.
yeah, if you put a rabbit hutch fence, so the wire is little, it's smaller than chicken wire openings. And if you use rabbit hutch wire and you put it 12 to 18 inches tall, they can climb over it if they're really desperate, but they generally won't. Rabbits are prey to everything and don't put themselves into enclosed places very often. So if you surround it with that kind of wire, you can do it. I've been asked about the hyacinth. I didn't get back outside, Steve, to take a picture of these, but people say I put in hyacinth and they don't multiply. I have to keep buying more bulbs, and they don't. Hyacinths don't multiply very much. But if you take the bulb, so here's, and it's a true bulb on hyacinth. It's not a bulb forming on top of a bulb. If you take the bulb out of the ground, and this one is after it bloomed. You can also do it in the fall when you're first putting them in. This is technically this is the stem. This plate at the bottom is the basal plate. This is all modified leaves that are wrapped around here, making up the bulb, and then the roots attached to the leaves at the stem. If you nick that basal plate and then plant it, you will cause the bulb to multiply. So I have a group of 3 of them out there where I nicked one, and I've been watching over the years as one multiplies and the others don't. And you just take a sharp knife and you just take a nick out. You just like taking a small pie-shaped piece out of the edge, or maybe a couple of them. What that does is stimulate the growth of adventitious meristematic tissues that can be anything. They can form as roots, and those meristematic tissues form a new bulb. So you get a new bulb blooming there. So hyacinths, we finally got that picture in there. There's Catherine's gold that was up first and finished. Isn't she pretty? She is such a pretty bulb.
Our pictures really doesn't do the color of them justice.
It's hard to get that, but it's just...
It is. It's a really, really nice yellowish.
Yeah, it's a pretty plant. Are there any questions before I move on?
Mark is wondering, can we remove the burlap from around their arborvitaes?
I would. Yeah, I think we're in plenty of time to do that. And now there's stuff beginning to bud out so the deer can find stuff they like to eat better. Arborvitae's,
Ber-
yeah.
Bernie suggests get a couple of hawks for the rabbits.
Yeah, that works. You can even try putting these rubber snakes or owl or hawk statues in someplace, but you got to remember to move that stuff around. You leave it there in unmoving for too long, and they figure it out. But you can put it up there. We found with deer, I'm going to switch to deer for a minute and then tell you what I think. We found with deer, we put windmills into the garden. Remember the big round windmill that we first put into the kids' garden, Steve, after the deer came and ate all the tulips?
Yeah.
The deer didn't like, and it's a windmill that moves, it pivots as well as fans. It worked pretty well to keep them out, and I'm wondering whether small windmills might also, again, moved around on a regular basis, might work with the rabbits. Might, but it's always a fight.
Judith is asking now that the snow crusted over the top is there now, she's noticing walking around some desperate critter gnawed off the bark of her already sickly apple tree all the way around, maybe 2 feet high. Then did the same thing to some of the roses. Um,
Oh,
he cut back in the fall. She'll text us some photos eventually. Are my trees and roses lost cause? There's still some uneaten bark at the base of the roses.
the roses you can just cut back, and they're going to come back.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen roses get eaten all the way down, but a tree, losing a crabapple tree, the whole, now you've got to reform the whole top of the tree because it's going to have to grow back from under where you cut. If it just happened, Judith, if it just happened in the last day or so, you can try keeping the area that they chewed moist so that cambium can grow back across it. But it depends on how big the gap is and how vigorous the plant is. We've seen our friend's striped maple that I was certain was going to die. I mean, the squirrel
Oh, 100%.
such a number on that, but it was fast enough growing that it grew over it. And our one of our clients' crab apples, oh, and a fall cypress that I did, recovered when we did that. But what we did is we put grafting wax over it. We just smeared grafting wax over the whole thing. You can buy grafting wax online, or some garden centers have it. It's a wax that you can mold with your hands. You don't have to put it in hot water to melt it. But you're going to smear that all over to help keep that moist. And then we wrapped it all with an ace bandage to make sure that it didn't deteriorate and fall off. I don't know that we had to do that, but we did, and then we left that on for a year, and it worked in those two cases.
It'll probably always be a somewhat of a weak spot right there.
It could be,
But you'll probably outgrow it.
yeah, when the tree knits enough tissue together to grow over it, then all you've got is a dead spot on the inside, which is a weak spot on the inside. It could snap at some point, but year by year they get stronger as they build wood around. As the diameter of the wood increases, if you can keep that new wood healthy and undamaged, then that wood will surround the part that was damaged. Yeah.
Okay. Judith says, yeah, the tree was pretty lost cause anyway, so maybe I should be grateful to the animals for motivating me to cut it down. The damage happened last week, if not way earlier, in photos we should have. Ruth says, I love the colors of the little colorful primroses sold around Easter time, but
Yeah.
they never do well. Is there a way to get them to do well?
The primulas that are sold all through the early part of the season, they're hybrids of Primula versicolor. They're all hybrids of various kind, and they're all perfectly hardy in zone 5 where we are, but they like to be in a soil that's moist all the time, not wet, but always moist. And sandy helps too. We have clients that they just grow crazy at their place. At Teresa's, at the base of her raised garden, and the garden is raised in part because the drainage is poor in the yard. But just on the slope, just uphill on that raised bed, the primulas spread themselves like crazy. At Judith's house, different Judith, and she's right at lake level. I think their house might be built on pylons. I think they might have had to put supports in the ground to build the house there, because I can dig a hole how you weren't digging very deep to put the posts in for that herb garden that we made there, right?
No.
It may be a foot and it starts filling up with water.
Yeah.
And there are weeds there too, so it could be that it's too dry where you are, especially in the summertime. And if it dries out, they'll go dormant. If it stays dry for long enough, then they die out. But if they do well for you, they'll become something of a weed. I was going to say something about
That's all for right now.
Okay. About the rabbits and the trees, I took out a crabapple at our son's house because it had been damaged at the base, probably by animals early on, and it was weak and it was never going to be a great tree. And after fussing with it for a few years, I took it out and put in a new Sargent crabapple. And I didn't protect that crabapple. Now, there had been no new damage on the old tree, but I put in a new tree. I just said it. I said, okay, those of you rabbits, descendants of the rabbits who did this first one, come in here. And so I'm going to have to replace that tree too. We just don't always think. Holly, earlier this year, I was showing you that I was worried a little bit about some of the hollies in our backyard. And I'm trying right now to be calm and identify the problem and determine what to do or not to do anything at all. I was out showing you something about our little pagoda dogwood and how well it's doing when I noticed. I said, oh, what's happened to the hollies here and elsewhere in the yard? There are places that were burned like this. I checked today now that I can get into the trees, into the bushes without snow all over in the way, because I thought maybe branches had gotten broken during the winter, had gotten cracked down at the bottom, but I find no breaks in the branches. What I do find are spots on the leaves and brown spots. So I'm looking to see whether the buds, see there's the bud for the new growth that can come at this node. I'm looking to see if those are still alive and healthy. There's the bud. I've cut it off and I've got it on the tip of a X-Acto. And I'm sorry, Steve, you were gone with the kids, so I couldn't ask you to take these pictures better. But you can see there's dead spots in the leaves and dark spots in the spots that are dead. So I looked at the bud, and the bud inside that area is still moist and green, and the bud is moist and green. So I'm pretty sure that they're going to leaf back out again. But I'm also pretty sure they're going to lose these leaves because there's so much damage on them. So I took the leaf off, and I wanted to make sure it wasn't a holly leaf miner. About every plant has every insect you can think of that could get to it. And leaf miners are the ones like the boxwood leaf miners that I've shown you, and the columbine leaf miner, that eat between the layers of the leaf. And when there's a miner in there, they've separated these leaves. If it's this dead, this would be open like an envelope, and it's not. I said, okay, so I think what we've got here is winter damage, that these three leaves, and it's just a hypothesis at this point. I haven't talked to anybody in botany about it, but plants harden from the tips down. The tip hardens first, and that as those cells push out water and make themselves saltier so they don't freeze in the winter, the ones below them get the cue to do that, and it goes on. I'm looking at the fact that it's the center of most of these leaves that have died back like this, and thinking these leaves in December, when it got so cold so quickly this winter, and I mean it got cold quickly and never warmed back up again, that those leaves weren't totally hardened off yet, and that's what it is. I'll watch it. So I'll watch to make sure that these spots are really just edema. They just literally burst cells happened here, and not a fungus problem. If I had just one special plant, I might pluck off all the discolored leaves, but these are shrubs we're growing for the birds more than anything else, and they're probably 12 feet across and 10 feet tall at this point. I'm not about to go in there and take out all of them.
And the actual amount of damage is not
it's minimal.
not worrisome.
It's just a spot here and there, and if I stood in that spot in the shrub and looked up, it's probably where there's an opening up above, where there's no tree branches up there, up higher, and it was a little bit of a chimney where the cold air was falling in and being sucked back out.
Or it's where the hawk dives in, and those are blood spots as he was flying out.
The one spot might qualify that way, but not all of them.
Mark has noticed that the base of his tricolor beech has the bark peeling off the base of one of the large trunks. Cover it, wrap it, remove the peeled area. Maybe from deer, he says.
Right, it might be deer, and you might want to try to protect the trunk and how if it, especially if it's about 15, 18 inches above the ground on up, a buck rub might be there. I would take a look to see if you need to, if you can protect it, if you can cut the bark. So what I want to do is try to keep it moist there so that the cambium around the damaged area has a better chance to grow in over the problem. And when the bark is raised and peeling around it, sometimes that keeps you from being able to wrap and keep it moist. So if you can get grafting wax and pack it all in there, great. If you can take an X-Acto and cut the peeled bark off so that you can reach and keep the cambium edge that's still rolling inside there moist, you can help it out. Beeches do tend to get damage from various things, and they're noted all the way back into was it Ovid who wrote Metamorphosis, the poet in Rome, who wrote about he names all the trees and what they're known for, and the beech with heart so rotten is way back then because they're quite common that they get damage in the lower trunk, and then they get a column of rot up there, and you want to stop that if you can. Don't make that any weaker than it has to. This came from one of my neighbors. We were talking, and he's been concerned about the skunk. I said, "Yeah, the skunk's been out digging all over in our yard," and he said something about your skunk. I said, "Wait, it's my skunk that's in your yard?" And it made me think about how far things go. There's a wonderful book called Michigan Mammals. I adore this book. It doesn't have great. It has only one section of colored pictures, but it's got great information about all the mammals that are in Michigan. And it does talk about Ontario and Ohio and Wisconsin, Minnesota, but it's focused on Michigan for those of you who are outside. So I was looking at these holes. These holes are skunk digging grubs out of the weak lawn in our shady area. That's a vole trap. And I got to thinking about whose animals these animals probably are. How far do they go? A lot of them are territorial. Woodchucks, for instance, for the most part, are solitary. While the female has her litter around her, you'll see several together. But once they get old enough, they are encouraged, and sometimes violently encouraged, to go find their own place. Well, how much space do they take up on their own? So I've been looking. I've got a lot more notes than this. I've been noting and looking things up, but generally, if you got a skunk's territory, and skunks are also, most of these guys are fairly solitary. Not all of them, but skunks are. You'll get one for every 10 or 100 acres. So that skunk that Fred up at the top of the hill at our old house, Steve, that he was trapping with cat
Yeah.
food, and I told him I was going to hold him responsible for all the eaten up lawns in the neighborhood because he was trapping our skunk. He kind of snorted at that, but it was probably the same skunk up the hill at his place, 15 houses away. Woodchuck, they want to have about 2 acres and have that to themselves. Opossum, 2 acres, up to about an 80 acre, depending on how good the pickings are in an area. Short-tailed shrews, which I just love, little tiny guys, and yet you only get about 2 per acre because they are voracious eaters. They are eating everything, mostly insects, but they'll eat small animals if they come across them. They'll eat whatever they can eat, and they have to eat constantly to keep going. So they need a lot of territory. The moles, and some of this started because people were talking about moles here recently. If you've got mole tunnels, and people say there must be lots of moles out here, no. Unless they've got the young with the female, and that only lasts for a little while in the springtime, they chase each other off. You don't have moles cohabiting an area, so you get 1, maybe 2 for an acre, and one mole can be responsible for a 3,000 plus foot long tunnel is his or her main run in an area. Cottontails are one of the more gregarious, where you might get 3 per acre. Gray squirrels, very gregarious. Steve, there's one instance reported in the Upper Peninsula, I think it was the Upper Peninsula, 20 squirrels per tree.
Wow.
I would say we're easily 6 squirrels per tree here. I'm watching them come up and down.
There's a lot of them that come over here.
Yeah, the deer mouse you're going to get more of. Coyote needs a couple of miles, and yes, you get them in clusters, but then they need that much more space. So our 7 coyotes that we hear singing in this state recreation area near us, those 7 probably have the whole. There's probably 1 pack in the whole recreation area. The least weasel, we found that cute little one. They need 1 to 3 acres and might range over 37 acres. So they're eating so much. Mink, and I'm interested in mink because we're pretty sure we have a mink living in our deep ditch outside, per square mile, several per square mile, and they like marsh, which is what our territory used to be. Muskrats will actually eat each other if they don't get out of the way, but you might get 3 per house. They make a thing like beavers do, and raccoons. So we are probably sharing animals. We don't really have as many as it seems, and especially with something like a mole, if you've got a problem with moles, then you can trap a mole and probably be out of the woods, so to speak. If the mole next door moves in, you might have to trap a couple, but you don't have to trap a lot of them. We like them. We like having. We rail at them. God darn, they get into stuff again, but they're beautiful. This is a shrew. This is a short-tailed shrew. And you don't see the backside to see the short tail because he was actually dead, and I had found him trapped. They have to eat constantly. If they fall into a window well and have nothing to eat, they're going to go. Deer.
Ruth is asking, did you get any information on chipmunks that you remember?
I didn't look up chipmunks.
Okay.
I know that they're more gregarious. I know in Anne's garden that one summer when she was trapping chipmunks, I was working and I kept hearing the click, and she had several traps out, live traps. I said, you're trapping the chipmunks? She said, yeah. I said, how many have you caught in here? She said, oh, about 32. I said, how far away are you taking them? She said, oh, I take them up, and she told me where she was, about 2 miles away. 2 miles is probably not far enough for a lot of these animals, but we did have a client about 2 miles away that had a chipmunk incursion that same year, and we did wonder whether there might be an overlap there.
Jean has a hand raised.
Okay, Jean, go ahead. These are just fun pictures.
There, I found it. I just wanted to say I have a skunk that's a regular in my yard, and he only has a white diamond on the top of his head. There is no other white down his back, on his tail, or anything. I feel so bad for this skunk. He has 1 diamond on his head. I mean, is that normal? I mean, this is not a normal skunk. He's got no white.
Okay, we have the white striped skunk. I think there is another. I'm not going to run out and grab the book right now, but I think there is another type of skunk. I wonder whether that you've got a hybrid or whether you've got one of the other skunks.
Yeah, I tried to look it up, and I didn't see one picture with. Every skunk had some kind of white on its back or tail.
Yeah,
but not my skunk.
Genetics can do funny things.
Yeah. I'm thinking of the Pepe Le Pew cartoons in Bugs Bunny Warner Brothers series, and that cat that was being mistaken for a skunk by Pepe Le Pew, and anyway, don't we love them? I like having them around. So for those of you who asked about, can you get it? This is what the trap looks like that you can put in this mole, and this is the time of year you often see this from each kind of mole. The tunnels that they make near the surface mole, when moles are digging near the surface, they're not moving the soil out of the hole. They're literally pushing it up, so it just bubbles up. Their deeper runs, which might be 2 feet down, that they use all year long, those they push soil out of, and that's what happens here. So during a winter when they've got lots of time to maintain the lower tunnels, you'll get some of these. Just spread it around. That's fresh soil coming to the surface. Oh my gosh, that reminds me of the article about Mount St. Helens, Steve. University of California helicoptered in a group of 12, I think it was, 12 gophers, and dropped them into a segregated place where the Mount St. Helens devastation was worst, the second year after Mount St. Helens came up, and let them dig for 24 hours, which is, of course, what immediately the gopher's going to do, and then trap them and took them out. And they got an incredible rush of growth there in that spot they were watching, and it's still 40 years later still more lush than around it, from just the digging of bringing up the soil where or things that have leached from down below. So if you've got those, don't worry about them. Rake them out. It's not like they're going to come back again. They've maintained those tunnels. But this mole in this garden where I put this trap out was digging on a regular basis right behind that support. I said, okay, so I took the soil out, put the trap in place in line with the hole on either side, and you can tell where there's, you can tell where there's an opening on either side. I put the trap right in line with there, pulled it to set the spring, pushed some soil back in. Now the mole is going to tunnel up and go, something got in my, and they'll dig to clear that out, and it'll set the trap and spear them, and you can take it out and get rid of the mole.
Diane says skunk markings can vary, not unusual.
Yeah.
Our skunk in this area is the striped skunk.
That's all the ones I've seen here too. And yeah, talk about varying. What about the chickadee? Took me months to figure out what this bird was that was coming to the feeder when I was watching my grandkids. And it was a chickadee, but it was the leuciform chickadee, all white. It happens sometimes. It wasn't an albino. It's just all white. And it persisted. I know I saw it over 2 years later. I haven't seen it since, but I guess chickadees, if you read Not on Walden Pond. Anyway, we'll go on. If you read there, they don't live that long anyway. This week I was working on our flagstone patio, and I wrote to my daughter Sonia, and I'm going to tell you that I've probably misled too many people about flagstone, that it's a good thing to have, and that you can set your flagstone as we set our patio here. We set it in slag. It's a sand that's made from the debris from purifying. What do they call that? Steel. Where they're
steel processing.
Yeah, they're processing the steel, and it's antagonistic to plant growth, and it is. But in a few years, soil from everywhere, blown in the wind, pieces of leaves falling apart, soil gets mixed in with it, and plants do grow in there. And I had just an explosion of oh my gosh, I am just mouse ear chickweed and creeping speedwell that I didn't clear out last spring. I left it there long enough because these are both winter weeds. They were blooming already and going to seed, and it just got everywhere. So I've cleared out here. I've cleared out part of the patio, and I decided I'm gonna be sloppy here. I'm just gonna pull everything out between the stones. So I took out the sod of weeds, and I put them out in a place we're making into a new bed. And after I took everything out, I spread a new sand on the area, which then has to be raked in. I let it get rained in once. I'm hoping for a nice hard rain. But I've swept it again, and it's working its way in now that I've got the whole patio done. And from there, I'm moving out. I go, okay, patio's done. That was a nice dry place for me in the late part of the winter. Now I'm moving on out, edging into the garden and taking care of things out there. But the kind of sand that you use for that it's the fine. You don't use this fine sand if you're putting it as the base of a rock garden or you're going to grow in it. It's too fine. But this is the stuff that falls best into those crevices for you, is the fine sand that you can buy at the home stores. No question. Black feet and long white fur. Whoa.
Oh, Bernie says they had a skunk subspecies over by her, long white fur and black feet.
Yeah. Steve wasn't there that night, did a tool care workshop for the Wild Ones chapter in Bloomfield Hills this week. And while I was talking to people, I said, yeah, that's true. We do have an article about it, but I don't think we've done a webinar on sharpening and cleaning, Steve, and we probably need to post one. We could put it in the free webinars one.
We did a tools webinar, one of our earlier ones.
Did we talk about sharpening?
And we talked some about it, but not all. It wasn't the objective of the whole webinar.
Okay, so I think we should do that. And those of you who are just getting out there, we cut with everything. We cut with hand pruners, we cut with loppers, we cut with saws, we cut with spades, we cut with weeders, we cut with hoes. Most of what we're doing is cutting, and a sharp, clean edge is really important. This is what we use, is oil for the stone, honing stone, and a fine oil to put on the stone. Some kind of oil, and it can be WD-40 or super penetrant oil to help you dissolve the sap that's on your tool blades. Steel wool, or I really like the Scotch-Brite pads for this, for scrubbing them off, a rag, and you got pretty much all you need to take care of a lot of different tools. So you pruners are so important to keep dirty. You might think, because they look like this to you, that the steel is black. It's not. It's not black. It's not going to stay black. That is almost all sap and maybe some rust and some dirt that's gotten on there. And every time you open and close scissor type bypass pruners, every time you open and close them, you heat up and put friction on that sap, and it turns into lacquer. So you've actually got a layer of stuff on the blade, and the more you get a layer of stuff on that blade, the more that you keep the two blades from meeting properly. So you need to keep those cleaned off. We use oil because that way we can carry just one kind of oil with us. You can use turpentine, and there are other solvents, but we use oil as a solvent. We get a good oil on that, and then we scrub it. And I've been scrubbing it with the Scotch-Brite. You can see it, things coming off there. Hardened sap and rust, and you're taking it all off. Look how much cleaner that's getting to be. Same pruners we started with. They start out black, and they end up looking like this. And now it's time to sharpen, and you never sharpen the inside of the blade. I'm not sure why it's a hard concept for us to keep track of the inside and the outside of a blade, but on a scissor type pruners, this side of the metal is going to go under here. It's the inside when those two are together. And you'd never want to sharpen the inside, because if you do, you're taking away metal that's supposed to meet the jaw down here and give you the clean cut. If they don't meet well, that's when you get the bad cuts, where the blade doesn't meet and you're damaging the wood, maybe doing more damage than you could be doing good. You want a clean cut. So you're going to sharpen the outside. See, now when I close these, this blade is going to be over the top of this. This is the outside, and it's this beveled edge that I need to sharpen, because all of those are nicks and bends in the edge. And every one of those nicks and bends is drag when you try to cut. It catches when you cut. It doesn't cut as clean. So you want to take that and clean it off. And we use the pocket stone. It's a little stone, so we can actually get into that area. You can also buy, in this case, it's Falco pruners, and they've got a little plastic handle with a tiny little stone in it. These stones, they're called pocket stones, and you can buy them online for about $5. I think you generally have to buy 3 at a time, but so buy them with a friend. But you put a little oil on it. That oil sinks right into the stone, and the oil becomes a medium that when you're sharpening this, and little bits of burrs of metal and little bits of metal come off, they are floated away in the oil that's on the stone. And that's what you want them to do. You don't want to be trying to sharpen with a bunch of sharp little nubblies of metal scratching your blade again. So you start at the base of the blade on the outside, and you just hold your stone at an angle. Don't worry too much about what angle you're holding it at, but at an angle, and you run it up the blade. And we aim for 50 strokes. I'm not sure what's going to work for different things, but I sharpen my pruners every time I go out to use them. I used to sharpen them every time I got to a new garden, so I might sharpen them twice a day in order to clean them off. If you look at it close, that powder, that stuff you see there, and it almost looks hairy, that's the debris from your honing stone and the little bits of metal that it came off, but it's made it much smoother now, and now you're just going to wipe it with a rag. And you might want to, and you check the jaw. I check with my hand. If this part right here has gotten nicked by the blade that was nicked badly, there may be bits sticking out on it, and you just work the top of that jaw. You're never going to do on the inside, because where they meet, where the two metals meet. So you're going to take the burrs off of there, off the top, not the part it meets here. That's where that blade's going to cross it, right on this, on the left of this line here. But the top of it, you can take the burrs off. So when you're done, it's a whole different blade, a whole smoother blade, and a better cut. Then you just got to watch your fingers. I have cut myself so many times on freshly pruned stuff. But your loppers, your pruners, your saws, you've got to do every single tooth. You take a look, you'll see all the bevels on it. On a saw, it's almost always better to just get a new saw when they get to that point. But it's still a good idea on saws to clean them off because they get so much sap on them that the friction is bad. But you'll find you can sharpen shovels, you can sharpen forks, you can sharpen loppers. We're all cutting a bunch of stuff, so just have at them before you go out there. Your weeders, see that beveled edge? It's a beveled edge on, and the handles, the wooden handles. On anything, we lose some really good tools every year, we gardeners, because the handle dries out. And as the handle dries out, it doesn't fit in the sockets that they put it in as well, and you end up with it wobbling out of the stud that's fit into it and breaking the handle or bending the end of it. We use linseed oil, sandpaper if it gets bad, spades and shovels. So my spade, the shovel here, same thing. And you don't want to sharpen something that's rusty or dirty. If you can't clean the whole thing, clean the edge you're going to sharpen. Because if you use a stone to sharpen and there's rust there or there's sap there, the honing stone is going to drag rust and sap particles into the edge, and you're seeding the edge with new rust or problems. So you want it clean where you're going to be. So I'm going to clean the edge, if nothing else, wire brush. And then with a file, or if you've got a grinder, you're just going to use the bevel along the front side. I tend to put my bevel on the back side of my spade, with the idea that I get more friction on the top of the spade holding soil and pitching soil off. There's a lot more sliding going on the top that could ruin the edge. So I put my bevel on the back side. Why were we soaking things, Steve? I don't know. I forgot.
I don't remember.
Yep. Anyway, take a look at your tools. We're going to get another rainy, cold day, and you're not going to want to be out. Take a look at your tools. Get somebody to help.
Donna said she prepared a kit due to our previous webinar on tools. Therese takes pictures of screens that she would need to reference later, trying to figure out what oil.
Oh, good idea. Just do a
Yeah,
screen
Judith wondered, when do we know it's time to replace the pruner blades?
When even after you've sharpened them, cleaned them and sharpened them, they still don't cut well. If you've got Felcos, order a new blade for them. If it's one of the less expensive pruners that don't have individual pieces, buy a new one. But when you sharpen them and they still don't cut for you, we at workshops, we're showing people how to do this. We sharpen them, clean them up, and then we try to cut paper with them. And if they won't cut paper, then we say these are probably on their way out.
Yeah. How many strokes each time you use it? We try to do 50 each time we sharpen.
We try to do 50 each time we sharpen, but there's no set number on that. There were some that people were sharpening at the tool workshop this week, that after we looked at them, okay, we've smoothed out the nick, but we've lost that little notch out of the blade. I told people and they said, oh, I've never done that. I tried to cut a chain link fence. I didn't mean to, but I was cutting at the ground level and I caught the chain link fence, and boy, that puts a big notch in your, and at that point, when you've got those kind of big notches in something, you might say, this is never going to cut well again. I need a new pruner lopper.
Yeah, Donna says, Elliott Saw Works in Ferndale will sharpen tools for you.
Oh, that's good. There's a place downtown too.
There's somebody that comes to the farmer's market in Pontiac too once in a while.
I would watch out for, somebody brought in tools and they were very pleased that they'd taken them to the farmer's market and had them sharpened, and I looked at them and they'd sharpened both sides of the pruner blades. You need to make sure that they know what they're doing, because that's a ruination of a good tool. I don't have pictures. I don't have pictures for this one, so I'll change to a questions picture. But this has to do with, we've been talking about the winter thaws, and that we tried to prune this winter a couple of times, and last winter a couple of times, but every time that there was a thaw or a reasonable number of days that it was going to be above 30, It was wet, it was raining. So I called up to Traverse City to the extension office up there, and I talked to the people at the research station. This is where they have their model orchards and vineyards, and people who are learning how to set up an orchard or a vineyard come to learn. I said, what do you do? I said, down here, we haven't had a decent thaw for pruning in the winter for 3 years. And you guys have acres of trees and hundreds of vines that have to be done. What do you do? She said, we scramble. She said, right now, the producers who have year-round help are working with the producers that have only seasonal help. And they're loaning people back and forth because they're just going to get the first day they can and prune when they can. They might be pruning all through April, even when things are starting to come up. But they have the same problem we do, and they say the same thing that we've been telling you. Don't prune when it's wet. Cherry trees, the sweet cherry trees, are really susceptible to a canker problem. The vines have all kinds of things that get into them if they prune wet. So don't prune wet, just scramble. It means we're going to be a little late doing things. I was looking today as I cut some things down and thought, oh, I wish I had all day to be out here because there's so much that needs doing now.
Priscilla is asking, she collected some ginkgo fruit. Now what do I do? Depends on why you collected the fruit.
The ginkgo, yeah, right, because what do they, I don't know what part of the ginkgo fruit is used for the ginkgo biloba extract that they make for memory retention. It's an herbal and a well-proven herbal. But if you wanted to sprout it, almost all of the wet fruits, peaches, cherries, blueberries, or whatever, if you're going to plant that seed, you have to take the fruit off first. So you would soak it and take the wet part of the fruit off. Ginkgos come from the same part of China that's like us, so they might need a cold treatment first. I'll look that one up and put it in for next time. I'll text you, and we'll see if we can figure it out. You do know that when you grow ginkgo from seed, you don't know whether you've got a male or female, and you're not going to know for 15 or
for quite a few years.
Yeah, 15 or 20 years later, you might find out that you've got a female that's going to give you fruit, and the fruit that lands on the ground and you walk on it underneath the ginkgo, it does smell really bad, especially if there's not a good breeze blowing through the area. Okay. Do we have time to walk around? Maybe not, but we should make the time. Go out and just look at what's going on in your garden. Don't wait for spring to come because it's coming already. I looked at the epimedium, which is finally filled in. You got to give epimedium barrenwort if you want it as a ground cover, and this is epimedium flavum, which is the yellow flowered one, and it's a good dependable ground cover for keeping other things out because it's evergreen. This is what it looks like right now. And I thought, maybe this year, now that it's all filled in, maybe for 1 year, just for the heck of it, I'll cut the old foliage off so that we can enjoy the flowers, because the flowers are pretty, but they often not shown very well against this background. So I looked underneath, so I pushed the leaves aside. Oh, green they are underneath. And there's no flower buds coming yet, so I could just mow that over. I could just take head shears or a mower and mow it down. That would be easy. I wouldn't be hurting the, but it could be 2 days from now, 2 warmish days from now that the flowers come up. So you want to, strike while the iron is hot, as they say? This is me looking over the edge down into our 5-foot deep ditch garden. There, the minks, I found the hole right about here. I said, I should go and look, but I don't want to disturb this stuff. This is what wild is about. There are things living in there and taking shelter in there. So that's where all the Veronicastrum, Culver's root, and Sanguisorba Burnett laid down underneath the snow. And while I'm there looking at the marsh marigold, which I didn't bring, it just followed me from our old house, or maybe it came from the lake here, is coming up and getting ready to do its thing. I'm looking and admiring things. This was just 6 plants of Pearly Everlasting. And now look at this huge area I've got for the American Lady butterfly caterpillars to grow on. And there's the beer garden sage, which I need to cut down if I want it to look its best this year and not get sick. And as I'm looking at that, I look at this and go, what's that over there? Oh no, oh no, it's all speedwell and lamium dead nettle. There's a spot there that obviously wasn't covered well enough with things coming down, and I'm going to have to do something about that. I might just put paper on top of it and say, die all you guys. But while I'm looking, Skunk's been down there too, digging little holes out of it. I mean, these are just the fun things to do. This is the creeping speedwell, lots and lots of seedlings, and this is dead nettle, a lamium relative. They're not going to kill anything that's out there, but I don't want them there. I'd rather that space be available for lupin seedlings and other native seedlings. Skunk's been working over here, over by where the vole crossed the path. Oh, okay, this was supposed to be before. I didn't have as much time as I wanted to have this year. I've knocked down most of the swamp milkweed stems that were in the neighbor's part of our shared garden here. I designed it for them, and I can do that because they're not so into tall and rangy, so it gets a little more tame over on that side. I did start cutting the lavender down because I didn't cut it down last year. This is the vegetative part sticking up from it all over. Whoops. Are the flowering stalks that I didn't cut down last year, but I'm going to cut this all the way down there. Can you see way down at the ground, nearly at the ground level, there's buds. It's going to come back. And I want to cut it out because in the case of lavender and a lot of the Mediterranean herbs, sage, germander, those kinds of things, they need to have a dry, warm summer. They like it wet and moist in the winter. We don't have dry, warm. We have hot, humid, and the stems, especially those lowest to the ground, get pinpoint infections in them. And the older the wood is, the weaker the wood gets. The more you keep it growing with new wood, the better your plant is going to bloom and look for you. So that's what happens to my lavender. And I didn't cut it down last year because I was just going to let everything grow over the top of it, but it's holding its own out there. So I've cut
It's after 8 o'clock.
Okay, so I've cut all
Teresa's wondering, is it okay to cut her lavender down to the ground in May?
Yes, let's see. Yes, you can definitely do it in May. You're probably going to see the bloom come even later. Here is just quickly to let you know what's up. Here's October on lavender that I've cut back, like I just showed you. So see, it's full and it's bloomed. I've even deadheaded it. But it's like that in April. I cut it to nothing. There's the clumps. I cut it to nothing in April. In May, here it is coming back up. And so that's what yours would be doing from those bottom stems in May. And you're going to cut back and favor that growth and encourage that growth. There, you got it in at the end of May, so it's 3 weeks later. And then in July, blooming. It's not going to kill lavender. Don't believe the books that say that you can't cut lavender and you can't cut sage. I cut the sage down. When they're healthy, you can cut them back. Okay, try to come out with us. Take a look at our Garden by Janet and Steve. Go to the website and the workshop pages. That you can come out and do things with us or watch us do things so you can see them in 3D. You can click from the home page on Meet Us in the Field or where we're appearing or the webinars and workshops page. And that's going to take you to a calendar that tells you where we're going to be. And this weekend, I'm going to be tomorrow afternoon in Grosse Pointe Park over on the east side of Detroit. On Sunday, I'll be in Waterford. We're doing pruning. Next Saturday is when, on the 28th, I'll be in, I think it's Roseville. Sonia, I don't remember if you're in Roseville or someplace in Macomb Township, to cut the blue and pink hydrangeas back. And it's fun to do, and I need to be able to keep track of the dates and who says they're going to come so that we know if the weather changes things, who we call. So take a look at that calendar and call us. Come out and join us someplace.
Indeed.
Mead, Steve?
I just said indeed. Come out and join us.
All right, so thanks for being here for Free for All Friday. We sure appreciate your participation, your questions during the week, your pictures that help us see and help us show other people what we individually couldn't see in our own individual garden, but might need to know about. So send your pictures, send your emails. We'll be back again with a Free for All Friday next Friday, March 27th. See you then.